The mother of murdered Pat Tate has claimed that her son was no drug baron and died trying to protect his friend, targeted for a revenge killing. Pat, 37, of Gordon Road, Basildon, was one of a trio found shot dead in a Range Rover early on the 7th, 1995. They were believed to have been lured to their deaths by a rival gang. But Pat's mother, Marie, said that the 6'2", 18-stone heavyweight had only attended the risky undercover meeting to support his pal, Tony Tucker. She is convinced Tony, 38, of High Road, Fobbin, and the other victim, Craig Rolfe, 26, of Chafford 100, were taken out by a drugs rival in a revenge attack for the death of Kevin Whitaker in November 1994. Chelmsford coroner Dr. Malcolm Weir recorded an open verdict into Kevin's death after his drugged body was found in a ditch in Dunton. But his parents have always claimed he had been murdered by being made to take an overdose. Kevin's father, Bert, said, "We believe Rolfe and Tucker were involved, but nobody came forward to say how it happened." Tucker was definitely at the inquest and Craig Rolfe had a warrant served him to attend. He and Rolfe denied at the inquest that they knew Kevin, but was found shown records proving that his number had been rung from Kevin's house. And he added, "We heard that there was a contract out on Rolfe and Tucker, but how and if they did this to Kevin, we don't know." The toxicologist told us he didn't know how it wasn't a murder verdict at the inquest because of the amount of lignocaine, one of the drugs involved. Kevin was anti-needles. He hated them. Someone administered this, but we don't know how or why. Mrs. Tate alleged that Kevin was caught up in a deal with a Romford drugs gang involving £60,000 worth of cannabis, from which he was paid just £2,000. But she claims Craig and Tony wanted Kevin to stop talking. She said they injected him with a substance called Special K, a paralysing drug used on horses. And she said, this paralysed his body, but not his brain. They followed it up with what was told to him was to be a line of cocaine, which completely finished him off. He was only used to smoking bits of cannabis, Mrs. Tate said. Pat was in hospital at the time. Craig Rolfe and Tony Tucker told him about it and he thought it was funny. But Pat was in hospital after an attempt on his life by someone else. He was shot while out on parole from an earlier prison sentence, and he forfeited that freedom after a nurse found a gun under his bed and he was jailed again. He'd only been out of prison for 5 weeks when he was killed, Miss Tate said. Police kept saying he was a drugs baron, but he wasn't. He was no angel, but he wasn't one of the people that goes around to nightclubs selling ease tablets. Pat was warned about going to that meeting in Rettendon, but he went there to protect Tony because he was such a big man and he thought nothing could happen to him. Him and Tony idolised each other. After the convictions of Mick Steele and Jack Womes, Maria Tate of Southend heaved a huge sigh of relief when she heard the news, adding, "It's a good verdict. I called my children and they were really pleased. It feels like we've waited so long." The 5 days the jury spent deliberating were particularly hard on Tate's brother, Russell, Maria said. He was getting very depressed. He was down at the pub when the verdict came in. I phoned him and he just said, "Nice one, Mum, nice one." When the case started, we all thought they would be found guilty. Then other witnesses popped up and it got muddled. I couldn't understand where they were coming from. Mrs. Tate was worried about the evidence of serving prisoner Billy Jasper, who claimed he had driven the getaway driver used in the killings, but Womes and Steele were not responsible. She added, "We got a bit despondent, but at least the jury saw through the lies. It has been very unnerving for the whole family. I said to my daughter, it may sound evil, but I'm just so glad about the outcome. If they'd got off, none of the family would have been at ease." She continued, "Even animals don't deserve to die like my son did. We will all go down to his grave at Pitsea now. Pat should finally be able to rest in peace." The thing is, you don't expect friends to kill friends. Mrs. Tate admitted Pat had a serious drug problem, which he picked up in jail. He was just 29 when it started, and it was the last prison sentence. 10 years for robbing a Basildon happy eater that destroyed him, she said. He was taking everything in the end. He'd started using a new steroid, and that just made him flip. He became very quick-tempered. If anything went wrong, like his meal wasn't on the table or something had parked in his place, he just got worse and worse. There was not a lot you can do. But according to the girlfriend of Tony Tucker, said Tony would still be alive if Pat hadn't been released from jail. Donna Garwood, who was 18 at the time, said, "If Pat was still inside, this wouldn't have happened." Referring to the Echo article that I've just read out, where Pat's mother claimed that her son had only gone to the drugs meet to protect his two pals, Donna said she was trying to get her son out of trouble, but if anything went on between them, then Pat was involved because the three never did anything without each other. Donna is trying to pick up the pieces after the ruthless killings and visits 38-year-old Tony's grave nearly every day. She recalls the television news that the three had been shot while sat in the Range Rover. "I just knew it was him. It was Tony's car. And when I tried to ring him on his mobile, it was switched off. I had spoken to him that day and had asked him when we was going to see him again. He told me we was going to the Global restaurant in Romford with Pat and Craig." She added, "He didn't tell me what they were going to be doing before that. He was always very secretive. Pat was more open with his girls." Tony had arranged with Donna to live in Tate's flat in Swanage, Venge, when he moved into a £250,000 bungalow in Fobbing. Donna said, "I did wonder how he was getting his money, but he was not one of these people who would go out selling ease. He had too much respect for that. I never went to his home, or the one he owned before in Chelmsford, but that was just because he was a very private man." Tony had 2 teenage children from a previous marriage, and Donna had said, "His boy was very ill a while ago, and he was very good. He spent a lot of time with him." She had kept in contact with Pat's ex-girlfriend Sarah and Craig's common-law wife Donna Jaggers. "Donna's really bad. After all, she has Craig's child. I'm going to see a counsellor now to get myself sorted. It's hitting me more and more. I feel like a part of me has been taken away. In my eyes, Tony wasn't the drugs baron or villain he has been made out to be. He used to say, 'They don't know me, so who are they to judge?'" After the murders, Tony Tucker's mother suffered a second blow when relatives broke the news of his death. Husband Roland, 63, died of a heart attack.